Just to give you a background, Vikram, by profession, he's an engineer, a mathematician, and coming from Bangalore, and now a writer. You know, how this transformation took place, Vikram?
It probably is the symptom of a confused CV, but nonetheless, I think right from childhood, as a single child, two constant companions for me were classical music and literature. They were friends and siblings who would never leave your side. So somewhere around, and I describe my writing career as this famous English word, serendipity, a happy accident. So I don't know how many in the audience would remember, somewhere in the 90s, we had this serial on Doordarshan those days called The Sword of Tipu Sultan by Sanjay Khan. And in that, if you remember, the Mysore royal family was shown in very poor light. The Maharaja of Mysore was shown as this obese man who was dancing along with the court dancer. The Maharani was shown as one of those typical, vamps from Ekta Kapoor serials who was all the time conspiring against Tipu. And, like how it is now, history being such a sensitive subject, there were lots of protests in different parts of Karnataka, my home state, about this portrayal. And honestly, I was 12 or 13 years old, and history was not a subject that I was very interested in as a student. Most of the history classes meant kneeling down outside because I just couldn't memorize who followed whom and which war was won by whom. So the chronology of history, the boring way in which it is taught in our schools. But something about this protest, fixated me completely, and I wanted to know what was the truth behind this false representation. And thus began a journey, a self-motivated, self-funded, more importantly, thanks to my parents who ensured that every vacation was going to Mysore, never with the intention that it will become a best-selling book or whatever, but just to know the truth. And that junoon kehte hain na, that continued almost for 10 years, all through my engineering and all of that. And I realized that the Mysore royal family of the Wadeyars, they actually ruled the state for 600 long years, one of the longest reigning royal houses of this country. But the way history of this country is presented, large parts of the country, South India, Northeast, all of these don't even feature in our history textbooks. So I realized to my dismay that despite all the numerous firsts to their credits, achievements to their credits, there was no single book that captured the entire story of the Wadeyars. And so I decided to write my first book. And then once, there also, by chance, while researching on the Wadeyars, I came across this fascinating character called Gauhar Jan. The first Indian, the first artist of this subcontinent who recorded her voice on the gramophone when recording technology came to India in 1902. And she was, born of a Hindu grandmother, an Armenian Christian father, a British grandfather, and then she converts to Islam. Becomes a Tawaif and one of the most celebrated artists of the time, in 1902. And then she's invited to Mysore. She falls in love with all the wrong men who cheat on her, embezzle her funds. So she's literally reduced to the state of beggary. And that's when she comes to Mysore and dies there in 1930. So this was again a character which just caught my attention while I was, surfing through the palace archives. And I said, this is a story that is waiting to be told. So each, book, I think the characters came looking for me rather than me going looking for them. The third book on the Carnatic maestro Veena S. Balachandar. Again, I'm a student of Carnatic music, and my guru, Dr. Jayanti Kumaresh, was a disciple of Dr. Balachandar, and she would all the time keep talking about him in music class, about how he stood up to the, the very difficult world of politics in Carnatic music. We see only the art side of the art world, but there is a lot of politics, just as what happens perhaps in Bollywood. So similarly, in the music world is no different. So he was one person who stood up to that, and because of that, he was maligned, he was misrepresented. So again, this became a character who came looking for, deliverance from me, so to say. There is a call, certainly. And somewhere down the line, I decided to become a full-time writer, give up my boring corporate job, did a PhD in history, and decided now that this is my calling and I need to stick to that.
So you mean to say the all historians, all people who belong to the history should give you a call that I am also there, right? And why this particular genre of books of history only?
I think, our country has such a glorious past. There's so many different stories of the past, which, as I mentioned earlier too, the way it is presented, unfortunately, is so boring, so uninspiring. The way it is taught in schools, whereas actually, if history is made interesting, it can inspire, it can educate, it can elevate, particularly the young of this country. So I think it's very important that while today we see a resurgence in what is called mythology, what is, with people like Ashwin and Amish and others writing about themes related to our Puranas, our Shastras, and our stories, history somehow we've always delegated it either to the Marxist historians to distort, or we have given it off to Western historians to interpret our history for us. And when a white person does it, we are so overawed that क्या बात है इनको हमारे इतिहास के बारे में इतनी समझ है तो we should actually be beholden to them. So I think it is high time that we, and particularly our generation, we reclaim our history, just as what Vijay ji was talking earlier about reclaiming our idols. I think our history also needs to be reclaimed, and it's about time. I'm seeing that there is an increasing trend where people are writing our history in our own ways.
Coming to the topic, which
I
is
must
very
mention
close.
here that this particular conversation with her, it is impromptu. We decided that she's not going to reveal what questions are going to be asked to me.
नमस्कार सभी को. मैं थोड़ा सा हिंदी में बात करती हूँ क्योंकि सावरकर मुझे लगता है यहाँ इस ऑडियंस में ऐसे बहुत लोगों के बहुत प्रिय कैरेक्टर होंगे. प्रिय कैरेक्टर का मतलब ये है कि ये वो व्यक्ति हैं जिनकी हमने बचपन से कथाएं पढ़ी हैं. हमने इसलिए कथाएं पढ़ी हैं क्योंकि हमको टेक्स्ट बुक में पढ़ाई नहीं गई हैं, लेकिन उसके बावजूद हमने सावरकर को ढूंढ के पढ़ा है. क्योंकि ऐसा मेरे पिताजी ने कहा था, या बहुत लोग ऐसा कहते हैं कि जो अपने इतिहास को भूल जाते हैं वो अपने भविष्य को कभी निर्माण नहीं कर सकते. तो यदि इतिहास को हम भूल जाएंगे, अपनी धरोहर को हम भूल जाएंगे, तो भविष्य का निर्माण अच्छा नहीं हो पाएगा, ये तय बात है. तो सावरकर उन लोगों में से हैं जिनको हमें याद रखना ही चाहिए, अवश्य में वो याद रखना चाहिए. और उसको क्यों भुलाया गया और किस लिए भुलाया गया, किस तरह से डिलीट करा गया उस मेमोरी को, ये आज हम जानने के लिए आज विक्रम जी के साथ वार्तालाप कर रहे हैं. विक्रम जी, आपके बहुत सारे मैंने इंटरव्यूज़ देखे सुने, उन सब में आपको बरखा दत्त ने बड़े अच्छे ढंग से मणिशंकर अय्यर को थैंक यू बोलने के लिए कहा है.
मैं एक्चुअली बोलता हूँ उनको थैंक यू. मैं शायद मुझे वो किताब ही उनको डेडिकेट कर देना चाहिए था, बिकॉज जैसे आपने कहा कि एज अ CBSE स्टूडेंट, पता नहीं कितने यहाँ CBSE के छात्र होंगे, बहुत सारे युवा दर्शक हैं यहाँ पे, पर हमारे जो इतिहास के किताबों में ना तो सावरकर जी का जिक्र था, ना ही सेलुलर जेल का जिक्र था जहाँ पे उनके साथ इतने सारे राजबंदी और थे वहाँ पे. तो माई फर्स्ट ब्रश विद सावरकर, सो टू से, वो तब हुआ था 2004 में, जब वाजपेयी सरकार ने वहाँ पे पोर्ट ब्लेयर में उनका स्मारक एक प्लाक बनाया था सेलुलर जेल में, और उसको विस्थापित करके मणिशंकर अय्यर जी ने काफ़ी उन पे टीका टिप्पणी की. बिल्कुल बिल्कुल. और तब, एंड आई एम क्वाइट एम्बैरेस्ड एंड अशेम्ड टू बी ऑनेस्ट दैट दो आई न्यू vaguely about Savarkar, I didn't know any details, though I was a history buff and I was always interested in history. And that speaks a lot about the way history is taught and the narrative is built in this country. So, and the interest kept growing, and like it might be obvious with the other characters, every time a particular character is either misunderstood or maligned or forgotten, they somehow attract my attention.
This was very deliberate actually. हम ये नहीं कह सकते कि वो भूला गया, उनको भुलाया जानबूझ के गया. हम उस पर वापस आते हैं. मैं हमें ये समझती हूँ कि सावरकर को जितना पढ़ते हैं उतना रोष आता है अंदर, गुस्सा आता है. गुस्सा उन लोगों पे जिन्होंने उनको दबाने की कोशिश करी. देशभक्ति आती है क्योंकि ऐसा लगता है कि वाह, ऐसा व्यक्ति कोई हुआ हमारे यहाँ. एक रेवोल्यूशनरी जितना, एक आज़ादी की लड़ाई में जितने ये लोग थे, उनको हमें ज़बरदस्ती भुलाने के लिए कहा गया, उनको डेलिबरेटली कहा गया. तो आप क्या वो चाफेकर बंधुओं से जो वो चला आ रहा है उनका रेवोल्यूशनरी मूवमेंट का, उसके बारे में कुछ कहना चाहेंगे?
जी बिल्कुल, आई थिंक दिस इज अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट क्वेश्चन कि हमें यही बताया गया है, एक वेरी मोनोक्रोमैटिक और लीनियर नैरेटिव टू आवर हिस्ट्री। ठीक है, आई मीन साबरमती के संत तूने कर दिया कमाल, दे दी हमें आज़ादी बिना खड़ग बिना भाल, ये शायद सही है कई हद तक, बट देन ऑल्सो पैरेलली अगर हम देखें, देर वॉज अ अनब्रोकन चेन ऑफ सशस्त्र क्रांति और आर्म्ड कॉन्फ्लिक्ट राइट फ्रॉम 1857 till the 1946 naval mutiny that
Yes.
Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose led, and the jury is out as to what actually got India her freedom. It was the naval mutiny. Was it the 1942 Quit India movement? If so, why did India have to wait for 5 years after that to get freedom? So throughout this, unbroken stream of armed conflict, right from the heroes of and sheroes, these days that's a famous word.
Yeah.
So sheroes of Rani Lakshmi Bai and others of 1857, you had Vasudev Balwant Phadke in Maharashtra, you had the Chafekar Bandhus, then Savarkar playing a very important role right in the center as the intellectual fountainhead, जो बौद्धिक जो स्रोत हैं सशस्त्र क्रांति के लिए, दैट वाज प्रोवाइडेड बाय सावरकर एंड न्यूमरस अदर कैरेक्टर्स ऑफ द टाइम व्हिच आई केम अक्रॉस ड्यूरिंग माय रिसर्च whom we hadn't studied about in history. Shyamji Krishna Varma, Madam Bhikaji Kama, Virendranath Chattopadhyay, Madanlal Dhingra, MPT Acharya, BVS Iyer. These are names which don't even evoke any remembrance in young people because we haven't been taught their story.
क्योंकि हमको उस हिस्ट्री की किताबों में से इन नामों को मिटा दिया गया, इसलिए हमको वो नाम याद नहीं है। मैं वापस आपसे आती हूँ कि क्या जो आपने कंट्रोवर्सी के बारे में चर्चा करी, साबरमती के संतों ने कर दिया कमाल, वो जो एक कंट्रोवर्सी है, आप वो जो इस चीज़ की गांधी जी के साथ हम कंपैरिजन कर रहे हैं, तो वो जो कंट्रोवर्सी क्रिएट करवाई जाती है हर बार कि क्या सावरकर बड़े हैं या गांधी जी के ज़्यादा कंट्रीब्यूशन है, इसलिए बार बार सावरकर को एक कंट्रोवर्शियल फिगर इन्वर्टेड कॉमर्स ओपन एंड क्लोज में लाकर खड़ा कर दिया जाता है। द वे इट इज़ प्रेजेंटेड, आप अगेन जितने सारे आपके इंटरव्यूज़ हैं और जितनी सारी अभी तक हम पढ़ते चले आ रहे हैं, द कंट्रोवर्शियल फिगर वीर सावरकर, वाई इज ही अ कंट्रोवर्शियल फिगर? हु मेड हिम कंट्रोवर्शियल? Why have we put him into that bracket of controversy? What do you have to say about that?
See, honestly, I think I've always held this, that Gandhi and Savarkar represent probably the two irreconcilable poles of Indian history.
Absolutely.
They will never meet. जिस तरह उनके जो चित्र हैं, they are on opposite sides of each other in the Central Hall of Parliament. बिल्कुल diagonally opposite. That way.
Was it deliberately thought of or was it coincidence?
It was probably a Freudian slip somewhere, but it was quite coincidental. But so they were ideological opponents right from the beginning. 1906 में पहली बार वो दोनों मिलते हैं लंदन में, when they are young students, and सावरकर इंडिया हाउस में है तभी, गांधी जी आते हैं साउथ अफ्रीका से, and that very first episode वो उनसे कुछ बात करना चाहते हैं, and he sees this man cooking prawns, और एक चित्पावन ब्राह्मण होके ये प्रॉन्स पका रहे हैं, और फिर सावरकर offers some prawns to गांधी जी तो he's a pure vegetarian and he refuses, and then this man chides him saying, this is just boiled fish, you know, if you cannot eat with us, how will you fight with us? And we want young men who can eat the British alive, you can't even eat this. So it was certainly not the best of first meetings. तो उसके बाद they meet again 2 साल बाद in London, and this is the time of the Dashera. And that time too, Gandhi ji is asked to speak something, and he says, I do not want to talk about politics, I will give a long speech on Ram Rajya, and he talks about it. उसके तुरंत बाद सावरकर जी आते हैं बोलने के लिए, and he says, even Ram Rajya was not established without killing Ravan. एंड रावण के सामने हमने सत्याग्रह तो नहीं किया, उसको राम जी ने शस्त्रों से मारा। और हमारे सारे जो देवी देवता हैं उनके हाथों में अस्त्र शस्त्र हैं, ये सिर्फ सजावट के लिए तो है नहीं, तो ये दुष्टों का दमन, ये हमारी संस्कृति हमेशा बनी है कि जो ईविल है उसको उसका दमन करना ही है। एंड इफ यू डोंट कंसिडर द ब्रिटिश एज ईविल, देन देयर इज नो वे ऑफ गेटिंग फ्रीडम फ्रॉम देम। सो वैचारिक जो मतभेद थे उनके, वो ऑल थ्रू देयर लाइफ आई थिंक इट रिमेन। Every time Gandhiji had some point of view. When 1926 you had Swami Shraddhanand of the Arya Samaj
I
being
was
murdered by
I was
Abdul-
coming to that.
I knew what's going on in your mind. So, so he was murdered by this man Abdul Rashid, and Gandhiji says, "I don't even consider him as an assassin. My dear brother Abdul Rashid." And we have to get into the psyche of the assassin. And what an irony of sorts that 20 years later the same man is heinous crime of being murdered by someone, and Gandhians didn't call him my dear brother Godse even to this day, and thankfully no. But then the hypocrisy of this whole thing. So every time Gandhi put a point of view, whether it was his very different views on caste system, on his whole idea of how India needs to get freedom, there was always one man who was opposing him, and I think that is why he becomes this very polarizing figure today, because anyone who goes beyond the mainstream thought, and of course the fact that this was the person who founded or propounded the theory of Hindutva,
Yeah.
which today is in a political ascendant all over the country, and everybody who wants to oppose Hindutva or the Hindutva forces, BJP or whoever else, they think the best way to do that is by attacking the
Savarkar.
ideological ancestor Savarkar.
Savarkar himself.
So Savarkar becomes
Himself.
the fall guy for all these reasons, and that is why perhaps he is dubbed as controversial. And you just see, I mean, every last Friday, Saturday,
हर election में
I was
सावरकर
in
एक issue बन जाते हैं.
Banaras, and I just got into Banaras, and the Twitter was buzzing about Rahul Gandhi's
Gandhi,
statement,
yeah.
I'm not Rahul Savarkar, and so on. And the same night, all TV debates and so on. Every महाराष्ट्र इलेक्शंस में उनको भारत रत्न दिया जाए नहीं दिया जाए, उस पे इतना बड़ा बवाल. तो बार बार he intrudes today's contemporary politics like I think no other figure of the past does.
एक
But
बार
for
में
somebody,
भारत रत्न दे के कंट्रोवर्सी को खत्म कर देना चाहिए ना, कौन सी ऐसी बहुत बड़ी बात है.
हाँ वो तो है, but the interesting part is for somebody who polarizes opinion either for or against so much, what is the scholarship about him? जो लास्ट किताब उनके बारे में जो जीवनी अंग्रेजी में लिखी गई वो 1960s में लिखी गई by this man called धनंजय कीर, who was one of his close aides. तो उनसे काफ़ी इंटरव्यू किए उनके, और उनसे ही काफ़ी दस्तावेज लिए उन्होंने, और उसको लेके उन्होंने उनकी जीवनी लिखी. पर 50 साल बाद मराठी में तो काफ़ी सारे
बहुत साहित्य
किताबें आ गई हैं, पर अंग्रेजी में उनका एक समग्र जो जीवनी है, it has taken 50 long years for us to re-evaluate, whereas every other year we have, and rightly so, biographies of Gandhi, Nehru, Patel and so many others. But someone you want to hate or love so much, but you will not invest your time in doing research and scholarship about that person. I think that is the क्या कह सकते हैं, विडंबना कह सकते हैं
बिल्कुल विडंबना ही.
country.
What research went into writing this book? I think to bring out the facts,
Yes.
a lot of studies required.
So this is the book that's come out, Savarkar, Echoes from a Forgotten Past. They are actually echoes from a very forgotten past, consciously made to forget past, as you rightly put. So I spent the last 4 years, researching on that across India, in the National Archives of India, the Nehru Memorial, NMML, where I'm a senior research fellow, and also across various archives in Europe. The amount of material that is there in other countries, close to 50,000 pages of documents at the National Archives of UK and the British Library in London, meticulously documented all his case, the stormy cases that he fought in London, the revolutionary work that he did in London, all that is sitting thankfully there. यहाँ तो we would have destroyed everything, but at least it is there. So I spent a lot of time there in the archives in London, in Paris. There's a lot of French connection too, considering when he was arrested in London and being brought back to India, he jumps out of the ship at this place called Marseille in France, and that becomes a case between Britain and France, just like you have the Jadhav case between India and Pakistan at the International Court of Justice at Hague. So a lot of documents there. Then Germany. So how Germany was actually such an important component of our freedom struggle, especially during the First World War. German ships were coming along with the inspiration of the revolutionaries who were in Europe to attack different parts of India and actually attack Port Blair, release all the prisoners, including Savarkar from there, overrun India both by sea as well as by land. So these are stories which I don't think we even know about it. So all these facts, it took a lot of time. Then also interviews with several people, both opposed to him as well as supportive of him. A lot of Marathi, literature. He wrote prolifically. There are 10 volumes of Savarkar Samagra Vangmay, which he himself wrote. Now, I luckily can understand Marathi, being half a Maharashtrian myself, so that helped to actually access the documents in original. And it was a combination of all of this, which was put. In fact, I wanted it as 3 volumes because there was so much of material there. But my publishers, Penguin, said this is not Amish's trilogy, which will create that kind of thing. So
No,
please
but it
restrict
has.
it
But
to.
it has.
Yeah, I'm quite pleasantly
Yeah,
surprised that
yes.
within 3 months we've already gone into a 7th reprint.
बिकॉज
which,
आप खुद
I
ही कह
didn't
रहे हैं कि
expect.
सावरकर के बारे में कोई सामग्री है नहीं पढ़ने के लिए, तो हमारे पास एक ही तो डॉक्यूमेंट अब लग रहा है कि एक ही तो डॉक्यूमेंट है जिसको हम पढ़ेंगे. मैं थोड़ा सा 1 मिनट लाइटर साइड पर आ जाती हूँ, फिर हम वापस थोड़ा सीरियस नोट पे जाएंगे. आप में से कितनों ने वो किताब का कवर देखा है? सो वी नो दैट सर ने जो किताब लिखी है विक्रम जी ने, उसका कवर मुझे बड़ा इंटरेस्टिंग लगा. इंटरेस्टिंग इसलिए है क्योंकि वीर सावरकर को हम एक पर्टिकुलर खाके में याद करके सोचते हैं. ये सावरकर का जो चित्र है, जो सूट बूट पहना हुआ, क्रॉस लेग बैठा हुआ, ये हम नहीं देखते हैं. तो आपने क्या सोचा जिसके पीछे आपने सावरकर का ये चित्र फ्रंट पेज पे लिया है?
ये बहुत अच्छा सवाल है क्योंकि ये चित्र भी बहुत ही रेयर एक फोटोग्राफ है. मुझे ब्रिटिश आर्काइव्स लंदन में ये फोटो मिला. तो जब सावरकर जी पेरिस जाते हैं और फिर वहाँ से वापस लंदन ही कम्स बैक, जस्ट एज ही गेट्स आउट ऑफ just as he gets out of the train at the Victoria station in London, he is arrested by the British police and taken to the police station. तो ये चित्र actually it's been taken at the police station. जैसे usually prisoners, their profile photos are taken and most of them are looking very scared.
It doesn't look like he is in the prison.
Look at how he's sitting cross-legged.
So cross
and,
leg poised, कोई
cross-armed.
पोज देने के लिए बैठा हुआ है. I know.
And the confidence in his eyes, like, I don't care a damn for what you
Yeah.
will do to me. So I thought this conveyed a lot about the defiance of the man and the character that he was showing. And I got a lot of flack actually saying the typical
Yeah, that's
photographs,
what I'm
Swadeshi kapde aur wo
हाँ,
topi
टोपी
and
and
the usual spectacles. Ye kya hai? He was the person who organized the first bonfire of foreign clothes
Yes.
student protest in 1905 in Pune, Ferguson College mein, when he was protesting against the partition of Bengal. So many people ask me even on social media that somebody who created a bonfire of foreign goods, he was wearing this in and
इसीलिए मेरे दिमाग में इसीलिए ये सवाल आया था कि जो व्यक्ति स्वदेशी आंदोलन का सबसे बड़ा प्रणेता हो, सबसे पहला प्रणेता हो, उस व्यक्ति की पिक्चर बुक के ऊपर सारे के सारे विदेशी कपड़ों में हैं. तो इसलिए मैंने पूछा कि पूछ लूँ आपसे कि क्या है उसके पीछे का राज क्या है. दूसरा प्रश्न मेरे उसमें ये आ रहा था कि ऐसा बोलते हैं कि बैरिस्टर उन लोगों को कहा जाता है जिन्होंने अंग्रेज़ी लॉ को लंदन में जाके पढ़ा और उसके बाद होता यह है कि एक शपथ लेनी होती है कि मैं इस शपथ लेता हूँ कि मैं क्वीन ऑफ इंग्लैंड के को फेथफुल रहूँगा, उनके लिए वफादार रहूँगा. और तब शायद सावरकर ने मना करा कि मैं ये शपथ लेने से इनकार करता हूँ. ऐसा कहीं हमने पढ़ा है, क्या वो सच है कि गलत है?
नहीं, I don't think that is
not true.
तो
And who gave him the name Veer?
that there are different the Veer in his name came after he came out of Kalapani in a public gathering in Ratnagiri where he was नज़रबंद होके उनको रखा गया 13 साल के लिए. तो वहाँ पे he was proclaimed as Veer. But this whole barrister thing, so he was a student of the Gray's Inn in London और वो छात्रवृत्ति पे वहाँ पे गए थे. श्यामजी कृष्ण वर्मा जो he was a great colossus of Indian revolutionaries और वहाँ पे इंडिया हाउस नामक एक हॉस्टल चलाते थे. और the idea was was of course to subsidize the education of bright young Indians, but those who were actually who could fight for the nation's freedom sitting in Europe. And it was easy to do it there rather than in India because यहाँ पे जो sedition laws थे जैसे अभी भी हैं बहुत ही कड़े थे और anything against the government you would be put to Kalapani. And so luckily now we are not sent there. But
क्या वो काला पानी लायक थे जिनको काला पानी भेजा गया,
As in?
मतलब क्या उनके हाँ,
I'll just finish the bit on the
मैं इसलिए
Gray's
क्योंकि मुझे
Inn.
इशारे और इसलिए मैं क्वेश्चंस
अच्छा
हाँ।
अच्छा अच्छा
अच्छा
So in the Gray's Inn, he actually registered as a student, but after he was captured and sent back to India, आप सोचिए a young fellow who was so bright, a bright student who went there on a scholarship, his degrees were snatched away from him. He was even his BA degree from Ferguson College was taken away. So on paper he was only a metric pass. So he never actually practiced law, though he was not called to the bench to practice. But the name Barrister Savarkar, that continued to remain with him.
Just to recall all the revolutionaries of that time, जिसे हम आज के वक्त में बाहुबली और दमन का नाम दे सकते हैं, how different was Savarkar from those revolutionaries?
He was almost like their leader. So he actually was the kingpin of the India House and did lots of activities there. And as I said earlier, he provided the intellectual corpus for the revolutionary movement. 2 साल वहाँ पे रिसर्च करके उन्होंने 1857 की जो क्रांति है उस पर एक किताब लिखी और ही वॉज द वन हु कॉइंड दैट फ्रेज द फर्स्ट वॉर ऑफ इंडियन इंडिपेंडेंस. तो तब तक वो सिपॉय म्यूटिनी, सिपॉय विद्रोह कह के ही उसको नीचा दिखाने के लिए ब्रिटिश सरकार कोशिश कर रही थी. पर ही एक्चुअली वेंट टू द एनिमीज कैंप. उनका जो किताब का नाम भी है शत्रुंचा शिबिरात, शत्रु इनसाइड द एनिमी कैंप. शत्रु के घर में जाओ, शत्रु के घर में जाके घुस के मारो. Why does that sound familiar in today's context? I don't know. But go there to London, research about your Sepoy mutiny there, and then write a book there. And then that was smuggled to India under very difficult circumstances because हमेशा छापे पड़ते थे. वो manuscript को भी किस तरीके से इंडिया लेके आए, that itself is a story in itself. It was probably the first book in the history of world literature which was banned even before it was published. तो उसको false bottoms वाले boxes में उनको छुपा के escaping customs here and there. First the manuscript is sent to शोलापुर, वहाँ पे छापे पड़ते हैं. फिर manuscript is sent back to London. वहाँ से वो पेरिस जाता है. पेरिस में भी पुलिस, फ्रेंच पुलिस उसके पीछे पड़ जाते हैं. फिर वहाँ से उसको जर्मनी भेजा जाता है. वहाँ पे क्योंकि there is a lot of Indology influence, तो देवनागरी स्क्रिप्ट क्योंकि वो मराठी में था किताब, तो they did a lot of mess in type setting. तो वहाँ से फिर से विड्रॉ करके उसको बाद में बेल्जियम एंड हॉलैंड वहाँ जाके वो किताब पब्लिश होता है. और that's actually like a James Bond film, and then it gets translated and comes back to India. And what is important is this book serves as the Bible for revolutionaries much after Savarkar actually left active revolution. Bhagat Singh and Sukhdev make it a entry criteria for new recruits. Anybody who wants to join HSRA, they were asked, have you read the 1857 book of Savarkar? And 2 decades later, copies of the book are found in Japanese and Tamil and so many other languages in the INA raids. So Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose and Rash Bihari Bose get copies of the book published even in Japan. So what exactly constitutes a revolution? That is what that book was all about. So somebody who provided that intellectual corpus, a strategy to revolution, because we are always told, what is revolution? Revolutionaries, we get half a page in our history book, right? Ki young people, they were hot-blooded, bomb liya, kisi pe maar diya, kisi ko goli se uda diya, then they were taken and hanged. But then there was a strategy, there was coordination. Even the Abhinav Bharat, India's first secret society that was formed by Savarkar, which was initially the Mitra Mela that later becomes the Abhinav Bharat. And it formed so much of a collaboration with the Anushilan Samiti in Bengal. Aurobindo Ghosh, Barin Ghosh, Khudiram Bose, Prafulla Chaki, all these people who do the Maniktola bomb case. So yahan bhi, these people in London, you asked about the other revolutionaries, one of his associates, Senapati Bapat, Pandurang Mahadev Bapat, and from Abhinav Bharat, and this Hemchandra Das Kanungo from Anushilan Samiti are sent by Savarkar to go and procure the bomb manual, how to manufacture bombs. Because India mein to wo Rowlatt Act tha, you could not procure arms, so you needed to understand how to make bombs. So the only bomb manual was sitting somewhere in Paris, with a Russian tailor. तो ये वहाँ जाते हैं और टेलर के पास वो 70 पेज का एक बॉम्ब मैनुअल होता है, वो उनसे ले लेते हैं. देन हेमचंद्रा इज़ अ वेरी गुड फोटोग्राफर, ही टेक्स फोटोज ऑफ ऑल दीज पिक्चर्स. आफ्टर टेकिंग दे रियलाइज अरे ये तो रशियन भाषा में है, ये तो काला अक्षर भैंस बराबर हो गया, हमें पता भी नहीं है कि ये है क्या चीज़. देन सेनापति बापट देन टेल्स देम दैट ही हैज़ अ गर्लफ्रेंड. So the revolutionaries were not all boring figures. They also had a very colorful life also. He had a German girlfriend who was in Berlin who said, I know a little bit of Russian, tum yahan aa jao. She was studying MBBS or something. Her name was Anna Claus. So they go again, the spies are behind them, the police is behind them. They escape all that, hiding that bomb manual. They go there and then Anna Claus takes 6 months to actually translate this poor book. And then finally it is translated to English, Marathi, Bengali, and then again smuggled back to India, and this becomes the source for that Nashik conspiracy case where Anant Lakshman Kanhere murders AMT Jackson, the district collector, and the same book is also sent to Bengal, and it's found with the people of the Maniktola case. A copy of it reaches Bal Gangadhar Tilak. So the kind of coordinated time, abhi to hum sabke WhatsApp groups hain, itne आसानी से messages can be conveyed, but in that time and age when there was no social media, nothing else, the coordinated way in which these people operated. And what was the philosophy? सशस्त्र क्रांति बात करते रहते हैं, पर उसका main philosophy और strategy क्या था? The entire edifice of the British Empire stood on the British Indian Army. And that army was comprised not of Europeans but of Indians. So if some way we can infiltrate that army and appeal to their patriotic sentiments and bring them over to your side, win them over to your side, then the entire edifice will come crumbling down of the empire on which the sun never sets and all of that. And that is exactly what happened with the INA raids. And Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose in one of his addresses actually talks about it and says, while people in the Congress were vilifying those who were in the British Indian Army as mercenaries, it was Savarkar who actually encouraged young people to not participate in Quit India and Jail Bharo Andolan, but join the army, train yourself in warfare, and then defect and join the INA. And that is the only way our ranks swelled. That's what Rash Bihari Bose and Netaji talk about. So his whole contribution that way, active contribution during his young days, post Kala Pani, given the surveillance that he was put under and also the very bad health condition that he was under, he was not actively involved in revolution, but lot into social reforms and then unifying the Hindu community, which was so divided. But his support and inspiration to the revolutionary movement continued in these ways.
That's what he said. Kadishore ke saath agar परिवर्तन की सोच रखते थे तो चाहिए ज़्यादा लेते. That's what we Savarkar did. He got in a lot of social revolution.
जी. That is also a very interesting part of his life, which जो शायद हम लोग नज़रअंदाज कर देते हैं. और हिंदुत्व की बात करते हैं तो मनुवादी है, believes in caste system. That is the usual idea we have. But here was a man who, if you actually analyze his views with those of Ambedkar, there's a lot of similarity where both of them spoke for a complete eradication of the caste system. So he actually speaks about 7 shatters that hold Hindu society together. Roti bandi, not intercaste dining, usse there is no loss of caste. Beti bandi, you can have intercaste marriage. Sparsh bandi, untouchability should be abolished. Vedokta bandi, the Vedas are not the preserve of one community. It's universal knowledge and it has to be made universalized to everybody. Then Vyavasaya bandi, there is nothing about your DNA when it comes to a profession. You're not born in a dynasty to become the prime minister of this country. Everybody can aspire to that, which is what Gandhi actually...
There are some.
Which is what Gandhi actually propagated at that time, saying everybody cannot become a viceroy and a prime minister. You need to be born in a particular lineage. Whereas both Ambedkar and Savarkar stood completely against that. So Vyavasaya bandi should not be there. Samudra bandi, where those days you can't even go outside the country. I mean, if you cross the seas, you will lose your caste. So his philosophy was different. Go to the शत्रुंचा शिबिरात, वहाँ जाके सीखो और उनको वहीं पे मारो. So and he was someone who built the first temple in Ratnagiri called the Patit Pavan Mandir in 1931, which was open to members of all castes and communities, an intercaste dining cafe that was opened there. So all these, far-reaching changes of the time, for which actually one reason why perhaps Savarkar did not become so popular was most of the Hindus were only against him because of the kind of, activities he did. Shuddhi Bandi, the seventh fetter that I forgot. So that he started in the Kalapani in Port Blair. He saw that, the kind of tortures that were meted to the prisoners, the Muslim Jamadar had to just, feed beef or something to the person and say, you cross over to our side, we will reduce the torture. Now he said, I don't have anything against conversion by conviction, but just for getting rid of torture, if you're doing it, that is wrong. And then how do you get that person back? Because the Hindu religion has no way of reconversion. So then he employs the whole idea of Shuddhi that Arya Samaj and Swami Dayanand Saraswati do, and starts this program too in Ratnagiri. So a lot of orthodox Brahmins, the upper castes in Ratnagiri in Maharashtra actually hated him, and he faced a lot of opposition considering he was a Brahmin himself and he was doing these...
Brahmin. I'll come to two very important questions. सबसे पहला क्वेश्चन जो हम सचमुच सब लोग जानना चाहते हैं, जो हर बार एक विषय उठ के आता है, हर इलेक्शन में उठ के आता है, फिर थोड़े थोड़े दिन में एक प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस होती है और कांग्रेस के एक प्रवक्ता उठ के आते हैं और फिर वो कह देते हैं कि क्षमा प्रार्थी की प्रार्थना के लिए उन्होंने कहा था और इसलिए वो गद्दार हैं और इसलिए वो उन्होंने देशद्रोही हैं क्योंकि उन्होंने क्षमा प्रार्थना के लिए पत्र लिखा था. उस क्षमा प्रार्थना के पत्र के बाद सावरकर को वीर कैसे कह सकते हैं? तो वीर भी ना कहें, सावरकर सिर्फ एक कॉन्विक्ट थे और कालापानी की सज़ा भुगत रहे थे. उस कालापानी की सज़ा के बाद उनको किस तरह से रिहा करा गया वही अपने आप में कंट्रोवर्शियल है. तो उसके बारे में थोड़ा सा प्रकाश डालिए.
This is very important, and give me a little time to explain this, because this is, I think, the crux of a lot of controversy around him and why he is controversial, as you say.
And why Rahul Gandhi says that he is not Rahul Savarkar.
Thank God he is not. I mean,
and thank God he is not.
but then the whole way of filing a petition, और मैं इसको mercy petition क्षमा प्रार्थना नहीं कहता, I call it a yachika. It was a very normal procedure for any convict, political prisoners, not only in India but across various colonies of Britain across the world. You could file a petition asking for release. And Savarkar was a lawyer, so he also knew what were the loopholes of the law to get out. There's no advantage rotting there. और एक और चीज़ कही जाती है कि भगत सिंह ने तो फांसी के तख्ते पे वो चढ़ गए, पर उन्होंने तो क्षमा प्रार्थना नहीं की. परंतु as a political prisoner you can't choose your punishment. Bhagat Singh was hanged, so he took it up, but Savarkar was given 50 years of life imprisonment. He was 27, so if he had survived and come out, he would have been 77 at all if he had come out. So this was a normal procedure, and the British government, the royal amnesty of Emperor George V that was given before and after the First World War to many political prisoners. The second point is he was also being like a spokesperson for all the other political prisoners who were young men, revolutionaries who got caught in this crossfire. They didn't even know English, they didn't know the law. They all used to call him Bada Babu, Vilayati Babu, जो अंग्रेजी पढ़ के आए हैं, अंग्रेजी लॉ इनको पता है, तो ये हमारे लिए petition डालेंगे. तो उनका अगर 1917 petition आप देखें तो उसमें वो he writes it very clearly that if my name constitutes an obstacle to the release of all the other prisoners, please omit my name and release the others, and that will give me as much satisfaction as my own release will actually do.
ईश्वर करे आपकी बात राहुल गांधी सुन ले अच्छे से.
वो सुनेंगे नहीं, वो तो
क्योंकि ये याचना नहीं थी, ये कहीं पे भी क्षमा प्रार्थना नहीं थी उस पूरे लेटर में, और वो लेटर आप सबको अवेलेबल है पढ़ने के लिए और किताब में है.
All the petitions जो 5-6 उन्होंने लिखे, सारे के सारे जो के त्यों मैंने अपेंडिक्स में डाल दिए ताकि let the readers, they are जनता जनार्दन है, they understand better than us sitting in judgment. और 1920 में गौरतलब है कि जब इनके जो छोटे भाई थे नारायण राव सावरकर, वो गांधी जी के पास जाते हैं और बोलते हैं कि मेरे दोनों भाई, इनके जो बड़े भाई हैं बाबा राव, वो भी वहाँ नज़रबंद थे कालापानी में, मेरे दोनों बड़े भाई वहाँ पे सड़ रहे हैं और 10 साल हो गया है. Even now it happens, right? After a few years, if the conduct of the prisoner is good, you give remission for few years. तो दोनों वहाँ सड़ रहे हैं, आप प्लीज़ थोड़ा मदद कीजिए. तो गांधी जी himself advises Narayan Rao that you ask your brothers to file a petition and I will file a petition on their behalf, saying they are very brave people, they have suffered a lot. अभी constitutional reforms आ गए हैं, Montagu-Chelmsford reforms, तो they would also like to join that process. तो गांधी जी खुद एक पिटिशन इनके लिए डालते हैं. तो अगर petitioning is such a bad word, तो then गांधी जी was also part of this whole game. और अभी राम प्रसाद बिस्मिल जी का we had this Jayanti recently, the Kakori case, people were also filed a petition. So this was a very normal thing कि petition डालो. तो इसमें आप देखें कहीं भी वो sorry, I would like to apologize, वो है ही नहीं. और he was released after 11 years and then 3 more years in various Indian jails. So 1910 he is arrested and 1924 he is released. And what are the two conditions put? That 5 साल आपको राजनीति में कोई आपको भाग लेने की छूट नहीं होगी और फिर आप नज़रबंद होकर रहेंगे रत्नागिरी ज़िले में. उसके बाहर आपको कहीं भी जाना हो तो ब्रिटिश सरकार का परमिशन लेना है. तो ये 5 साल जो था वो it increases to 13 long years. And in my next book that will come up, that the kind of surveillance that he was put under, every move of his, every letter that he wrote, every article that he wrote was intercepted and kept track of. Now, if he had become a British stooge, why would you actually keep a track of someone who is on your side? जो आपके मित्र हैं उस पे तो आप निगरानी नहीं करेंगे. तो that itself proved that the British never trusted him all through. From 1910 till 1937, when he actually, after so long, 27 long years of being out of public life, they considered him as a D category or a dangerous criminal. And that is one reason why they did not want him anywhere in mainland India. सुदूर वहाँ पे पोर्ट ब्लेयर में वहाँ पे डाल दो ताकि he just सड़ के वहाँ मर जाए, and he doesn't come back and inspire. In fact, सचिंद्रनाथ सान्याल, अनदर फेमस रेवोल्यूशनरी, वो अपने जीवनी में लिखते हैं मेरा बंदी जीवन. उसमें वो लिखते हैं कि मैंने भी एक ऐसा ही पिटिशन लिखा सावरकर जी के कहने पे, हूबहू वैसा ही पिटिशन जो उन्होंने और बाबा राव ने लिखा. हम लोगों को तो छूट मिल गई पर उनको रिहा नहीं किया गया. और उसका कारण भी वो बताते हैं कि द ब्रिटिश गवर्नमेंट कंसिडर्स देम सो डेंजरस दैट जो बॉम्बे प्रेसिडेंसी में जो क्रांति की ज्वाला कम हो गई है, कम हो गई है, वो फिर से न भड़क जाए. तो इसीलिए इनको ब्रिटिश सरकार किसी भी हालत में पोर्ट ब्लेयर से रिहा करने के लिए तैयार नहीं है. तो वहाँ के खुद के, और एक और चीज़ जो इम्पॉर्टेंट है, वहाँ पे एज अ कैदी ही वॉज ऑल्सो प्लॉटिंग एंड कंस्पायरिंग टू क्रिएट बॉम्ब मैन्युफैक्चर इवन इन पोर्ट ब्लेयर. तो उसकी भनक जो है दिल्ली सरकार तक पहुँच जाती है और वहाँ होम सेक्रेटरी, होम डिपार्टमेंट से एक ऑफिशियल आते हैं, रेजिनाल्ड क्रेडॉक, who tries to interview all these people कि बताओ भाई आपका क्या प्रॉब्लम है, what is it that you would want. तो आफ्टर दैट ही फाइल्स एन ऑफिशियल रिपोर्ट जिसमें वो कहते हैं मैंने सावरकर और बाकी बहुत सारे लोगों से बात की और खासकर सावरकर से बात किया, और ही डजंट शो एनी साइन ऑफ रिमोर्स और रिपेंटेंस फॉर व्हाट ही डिड व्हाइल ही वाज इन लंदन. तो ब्रिटिश रिकॉर्ड्स ऐसा बोल रहे हैं, उनके पिटिशन ऐसा कह रहे हैं, उनके जो सहबंदी थे वो अपनी जीवनियों में ऐसा लिख रहे हैं. उसके बावजूद हम वही झूठ बार बार फैलाते रहेंगे क्योंकि इससे हमारी राजनीतिक रोटी सेकेगी. तो ये अब भैंस के आगे कितना भी हम बीन बजा लें उसको वो संगीत सुनाई नहीं देगा.
Being a non-fiction writer, you convert yourself to fiction. Or if you imagine that Gandhi would have been alive even after 1948, and if they had made me Savarkar, and he has made me Savarkar, what would be your story like in that?
Hey Bhagwan, I think you're going to get me into a lot of trouble. Why go, after 1948, but even when they were alive, those two episodes I told when they met again in 1926 or so when he was in Ratnagiri, and Gandhiji comes to Ratnagiri, they both meet in Savarkar's house and they have heated discussion for several hours that and Gandhi actually tells him don't do all this Shuddhi movement, it is causing a lot of trouble in society, and Savarkar opposes him. So jate jate Gandhi says and they also have differing opinions on untouchability, because importantly at this time like I mentioned Gandhi's views were that the varnashram system is the bedrock of Hinduism. और उसको अगर हम हिला दें तो पूरा जो Hinduism है वो it will come crashing. हाँ तो and as I said, profession has to only come hereditary. There is nothing called merit. You have to be born in a certain family. Everybody cannot become a viceroy, prime minister. So on these issues they had a hot debate. और उसके while leaving, it is said, it is documented in one of the eyewitnesses thing which comes in my second book. Gandhi is supposed to have told him that हमारे मतभेद ऐसे हैं कि I don't think we will see eye to eye ever. We will never agree, but let's agree to disagree. But I hope you will allow me to continue with my experiments. उनके तो experiments with truth were so famous. So Savarkar says, you can do your experiments, but at what cost? You know, if the nation has to pay a cost for that, then I don't know if your experiments are really worth it. So uske baad they never meet. And I think that whole, the twain shall never meet, jo bolenge in dono ke liye, that continued. And these are two contesting, contrasting ideas of India. When we say idea of India, I think there are multiple ideas of India, and it is worth having both of them. There is space for both.
So one last question. हिंदू राष्ट्र की जो बार बार कल्पना हो रही है, वो कल्पना ऐसा कहा जाता है कि सावरकर जी ने उस हिंदू राष्ट्र की कल्पना करी थी, जिसके बारे में अभी फिर से कंट्रोवर्सी क्रिएट करी जा रही है और कहा जा रहा है कि जो उन्होंने कहा था वैसा अभी हो रहा है, और ऐसा बार बार कहा जाता है. तो वो हिंदू राष्ट्र की कल्पना, हिंदुत्व की कल्पना क्या सावरकर जी ने तब कही थी, वो आज कितनी सार्थक और कितनी ज़मीन पे धरातल पर दिखती है?
इसके दो भाग I will distribute this question. So one is, what exactly was this Hindutva? When did it come up, and why did it come up? So if you look at the the origin of the Hindutva that Savarkar propounded, it was 1923, और वो रत्नागिरी के prison में बैठ के एक Essentials of Hindutva नाम के बहुत छोटा सा एक pamphlet निकालते हैं, 100 पन्नों से भी कम है. But it was a book that was written in English, while all his other books were written in Marathi. So it was very evident that being a strategist, he was aiming for a pan-Indian readership. And what was the situation in India then? And I always keep saying that I think if religion entered politics in India in a very dangerous manner, it was during this time, and the seeds of partition of this country and separatism were sown, it was during this time with the Khilafat agitation that was launched in this country by Gandhi. The road to hell is always paved with best intentions. तो उनका intention ये था कि हिंदू मुस्लिम एकता और मुसलमान समुदाय भी इसमें ज़्यादा भाग लें. But what was the bait that was used? So many thousands of kilometers away you had Turkey, and वहाँ पे there was a caliphate, the Khilafat under a sultan, whom even the people of Turkey did not want him. They wanted him ousted. They put Mustafa Kemal Ataturk came to power in Turkey. But भारत के मुसलमानों को उकसाया गया कि हम आपके जो पवित्र खलीफा हैं वहाँ पे, उनको पुनर्स्थापित करने के लिए हम एक एजिटेशन करेंगे, और अगर आप हमारा साथ देंगे तो आप हमारा साथ दो, then we will also jointly do this. And Gandhi promised within 1 year you will get both. हम देश को स्वराज भी दिला देंगे और वहाँ पे इतने किलोमीटर दूर खिलाफत भी establish हो जाएगा. अब you see the logic of it. It was, we were a slave nation, a colony, और यहाँ पे थोड़े लोग अगर झंडे लेके नारेबाजी करेंगे तो ब्रिटेन which is इतनी बड़ी शक्ति थी तब, तो वो a country which it has won in war, why should it oblige our requests and our protests? So there was no way this movement was bound to fail. But फिर भी मज़हब के नाम पे जिस तरह से लोगों को उकसाया गया और संगठित किया गया, उसके परिणाम जो है देश के लिए बहुत ही हानिकारक थे. All through the 1920s you had terrible communal riots, Hindu genocide, starting with the Mopla carnage in Malabar, and then Gulbarga, Kohat, Delhi, Panipat, Bengal, Calcutta, different parts of India, and Swami Shraddhanand's murder, all a very communally surcharged time. और उस टाइम पे, what as I mentioned about Gandhi's response, even when the Moplas, the rioters who killed Nayars in cold blood in broad daylight, Gandhi called them brave men who were fighting for the cause of their religion. So there needed somebody who actually stood up and gave that intellectual counter to all of this and gave the Hindu community a sense of direction, and which is what Savarkar did through his book, where he defined what a Hindu is. In the very first paragraph, he says this has nothing to do with the religion of Hinduism. and he was an anti-caste, anti-religion, atheist later, Nirishwarvad. Atheist is a different connotation. Nirishwarvad में विश्वास रखते थे. तो for someone like that, Hinduism did not matter. He said, I am talking about a cultural and national identity. Sindhu, Sindhu Paryanta, anybody who is between the Indus and the ocean, anybody who considers this land as their Pitru Bhumi and Punya Bhumi, the land of their ancestors, and also a holy land, not again in terms of religion, but something that you can revere. So that person is a Hindu, not religiously, but as a cultural and a national identity. So that was the original concept of Hindutva, which he put to practice in Ratnagiri, as I mentioned, to unify the community. In 1937, when he becomes the president of the All India Hindu Mahasabha, आप उनके जो भाषण हैं, हिंदू राष्ट्र दर्शन नाम के किताब में वो सारे संकलित हैं, तो उसमें अगर आप पढ़ें तो it becomes very clear. He talks about what is my concept of a constitution of free Hindu Rashtra. तो उसमें ऐसा होगा कि nobody will be discriminated on the basis of caste, religion or community. Everybody will be equal in front of the eyes of the law. You can do your puja, archana, etc., but let it be in your house. Don't bring it to the street. And a majority will not get extra privileges only because it's a majority. Similarly, a minority will not get concessions because on virtue of its minority. And he also goes on to add that if the minority, we would like to remove, and the word used is, if we would like to remove even a ghost of suspicion in the eyes of the minority, religious minorities, that the state, the Hindu Rashtra, will do anything to encroach upon their religious, their cultural, as well as linguistic freedom. In fact, the state will promote it. They are also very utilitarian person. So the state will subsidize, say, a madrasa or whatever, a church-run institution, but that will be in proportion to the tax that that community pays to the state exchequer. आप इतना टैक्स देंगे तो उसका कुछ प्रतिशत आपके जो संस्थाएं हैं उसको चलाने के लिए आपको दिया जाएगा. तो and same for the Hindu community and all its different groups. तो and if anybody is encroaching upon the rights of the minority community, the state must intervene to ensure that these encroachments are taken away. So something that was that spoke about that equality today. Unfortunately, even in Parliament, we talk about him being the other side of Jinnah. Now, this came even during his lifetime, and very famous historians too quoted that on Twitter, saying, he said, "I have no quarrel with Jinnah," but in his two-nation theory. But just a few days after that statement came, Savarkar himself, clarifies that I was misquoted. तब भी fake news होता था, like now where some journalist is misquoting you for reasons best known to them, where he says Jinnah and I are totally opposite. He is talking for concessions, whereas I am talking for equality of everybody in front of the law. I do not believe in a two-nation theory. Of course, there are two nations as long as there is a group within a major minority community of this country which believes in an ummah, a universal brotherhood, which believes in reverence to a caliph who's sitting several kilometers away. So as long as that extra constitutional allegiance, extra territorial allegiance is there to some other force, and you're looking at a universal brotherhood, which we are looking at it with ISIS and pan-Islamist movements across the world, which is being criticized. So as long as that tendency is there, we are two nations. But once that tendency goes and there is integration, we are one nation, and we will not accept. And the Hindu Mahasabha always kept opposing the plan of partition of the country. So I think again this is one more thing that is, he was a Muslim basher, he hated Muslims, he was the progenitor of the two-nation theory. Manish Tiwari and others said in Parliament, whereas the first account of a two-nation theory came by Sir Syed Ahmad Khan in 1873 or something, 10 years even before Savarkar was born. And then you had Muhammad Iqbal in the 1930 session, he talks about Pakistan and so on. So I think in all this, that's what, as I said in my starting comments itself, there is so much polarizing opinion for as well as against him. But it's so sad that all of them making these statements have actually not read what he has said. They have not even read what history has to say and the archival documents which are screaming out loud to be heard.
In 1970 में इंदिरा गांधी ने भी सावरकर का सम्मान किया था और सावरकर का टिकट भी जारी की थी, तो वही कांग्रेस क्यों विरोध कर रही थी?
हाँ, मैं बार बार वही बोलता हूँ कि राहुल गांधी जी खुद अपनी जो दादी हैं उनके वक्तव्य पढ़ लें कि ही वॉज व्हेन ही डाइड इन 1966, वो बोलती हैं कि ही वॉज कास्ट इन द मोल्ड ऑफ अ परफेक्ट रेवोल्यूशनरी एंड हिज नेम इज़ अ वेरी बाईवर्ड फॉर सैक्रिफाइस, फॉर पेट्रियाटिज्म एंड वैलर. एंड एक डॉक्यूमेंट्री फिल्म भी उनके जीवन पे बनाने के लिए इंदिरा गांधी ने परमिशन दिया था फ्रॉम द INB मिनिस्ट्री. आई थिंक मैं अगर इसका विश्लेषण करता हूँ तो मुझे लगता है कि एट दैट टाइम the Hindutva or the parties, Hindutva was not a political threat to the Congress उस ज़माने में, because Jan Sangh was not even, it was tottering somewhere. भारतीय जनता पार्टी का जन्म भी नहीं हुआ था 1970 में, तो इसीलिए the Congress leaders were very generous कि सबको सम्मान कर देते हैं. पर खासकर especially after वाजपेयी सरकार और अभी 2014 के बाद the way the saffron surge across India, I think as I said earlier, they feel the best way to hit out on the BJP is to castigate Savarkar. The sad part and the tragedy of Savarkar is I don't think even the BJP takes him completely. They would only cherry pick some interesting ideas of his life, because interestingly Savarkar was never a part of the RSS. He and the RSS had lot of differences of opinion on several things, including cow worship, where he said I don't consider the cow as a worthy of worship and all of that. वो अलग चर्चा है. So today I think that becomes the thing where the Congress cannot have that generosity to accept that this was a patriot who served so much for this country.
क्या आपको लेफ्टिस्ट हिस्टोरियंस राइटिस्ट हिस्टोरियन तो नहीं कह देते?
मुझे इन सब उपाधियों से कोई मतलब नहीं बनता. राइटिस्ट, लेफ्टिस्ट, आई एम जस्ट अ सेंट्रिस्ट. और यहाँ भी लेफ्ट ना राइट, मैं सेंटर में बैठा हूँ, और सेंटर के पास ही मुझे लगता है सत्य है. और हिस्ट्री भी ऐसा है कि ब्लैक एंड वाइट कभी नहीं होता. इट्स ऑलवेज शेड्स ऑफ ग्रे.